Hey, I don't know if any of you have ever noticed this before, but Star Trek III: The Search for Spock is kind of a dark movie. From the death of Spock, to the decommissioning of the Enterprise, to McCoy going insane, to the disbanding of the crew after the ship's decommissioning, the Enterprise being stolen, to the Klingons destroying the USS Grissom, David's death, the destruction of the USS Enterprise, and finally the destruction of the Genesis planet. The Search for Spock has a lot of darkness in the movie. Or should I say tragedy? We know the Klingons are the villains of the story, but are they actually the real villains of this story? Okay, so we know the story behind the Klingons in this movie. They learn about the Genesis device and through the secret documents from Admiral Kirk. They race to the Genesis planet and try and steal the secret information and torture anyone who has information about it, and in the process wind up getting everyone on their ship killed. But are they really the villains of this story? They learned of a top secret doomsday weapon, as Kruge would call it, and did not like the idea of the Federation having their hands on it. They wanted it, and they were going to do what they could to get it.
The Genesis experiment is a failure.
A failure? The most powerful destructive force ever created. You will tell me the secret of the Genesis torpedo.
The idea of Starfleet having an ultimate weapon like that without the Klingons having any say or having any chance of achieving such power themselves was something that Kruge could not handle. He wanted to be on the same level as they were. Okay, so like I said, the Klingons are the villains of this story, but I honestly believe that they were just doing what they had to do in this big threat of the Genesis device, and the real villains of this story is Starfleet.
Starfleet? That's outrageous!
Remember now, at the beginning of the Wrath of Khan, Starfleet cadets were being trained in the Kobayashi Maru, no-win scenario training on how to deal with enemies like the Klingons. Regardless of whether or not they were at war, there was still controversy and there were still issues going on with the Klingons. When the Enterprise returns from its battle with Khan to Earth, the Admiral informs them that Genesis is a quarantine planet and it's a forbidden subject for them to talk about.
May I ask why?
In your absence, Genesis has become a galactic controversy.
So if Genesis is a galactic controversy, as the Admiral said, the Federation Council's decision to send one vessel to a planet they have quarantined just doesn't make sense. Let's think about this for a moment. They're in the middle of a peace negotiations with the Klingons when the Genesis device is detonated and Genesis planet is created, which causes controversy, not just in the Klingon Empire, but I guarantee you throughout the quadrant. So Starfleet's answer is to put a quarantine around the planet, and they honestly believe for one moment that just because they put a quarantine up, that everyone, even outside the Federation, is going to honor the quarantine? Kruge and the Klingon ship going to Genesis is a clear example of how that is just fantasy. Starfleet really messed this up. With the Grissom destroyed, the Klingons are able to seize control of the planet, setting a whole mess of events in motion, a chain of events in motion that led to more destruction and more death than was necessary. Now, the Admiral's response to Kirk's request to send the Enterprise to Genesis was a reasonable one. I mean, his response was quite acceptable. When you're being told that the spirit of a dead friend of yours, it may be alive and well in your doctor, and you need to go get your dead friend's body back, well, that's going to send up a couple of red flags. But the Admiral's response was a wrong one, because if he had done it the right way, if he had said, okay, we'll contact the Grissom, they'll beam up Spock's body, we'll send a shuttle out to pick up the coffin, and that'll solve the whole problem. If the Admiral had handled this differently, Kirk would never have sent the Enterprise out to Genesis and faced off with the Klingons and destroyed the ship. In the end, if the Starfleet Federation Council had paid more attention to who they were at the negotiating table with, and remembering that the Klingons can be treacherous, if they had remembered all that and paid more attention to security and added a little more ships to the Genesis exploration, none of the tragedies that took place within this movie would have happened. David would still be alive, the Grissom would still exist, and the Enterprise would never have been destroyed. This is Starfleet, the Federation Council's fault. All of it. They set the Klingons in motion, they failed to protect the Grissom, and they did not do their job properly. Well, tell me what you think about this, my friends. Something I thought about, and I'd like to hear your thoughts and comments on it. Drop your comments below and let me know. And until the next time, my friends.
Get up!